Hit the poo, family. Assalamu alaikum. All power to the people. Let's free all political prisoners, and welcome to this edition of Future Shock Live on www.interlightradio.com, simulcasting via www.talkblackliveradio.com in St. Louis with, of course, our guest and host. God, he's both this morning, and that's, of course, Brother Wisdom 2C. Well, family, we have a lot that we want to share with you. It's been a while since we've done this simulcast, and we have a lot to catch up on. Now, again, today being June the 11th, 2009, 6249 in the year of our Kemetic ancestors, we want to let you know this is a live broadcast. Therefore, we want you to call your friends, email them, chat with them if you're in the chat rooms, and let them know that we're on live right now. And we're going to be discussing a lot of issues as it pertains to alternative energy, the green movement, the African American community, the housing industry, and a whole lot more. So we want to hear from you. 310-928-7733. That's how you can call us. If you're a Skype user, it's simple. Inner_light_radio. You can email us your questions at innerlightradio@yahoo.com. We'll take your questions right away. Well, as I said, we haven't done this in quite some time. It's been really, really way too long. Brother Wisdom, assalamu alaikum, sir, and welcome. Welcome back. Should I say welcome black?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, welcome to. I like to say walaikum salam, and as well we can say hotep and managani, and we like to give a great shout out to all African people wherever they are throughout the world and throughout the diaspora. And I tell you, I have to really give a great shout out to some of the great things that you're doing. I know that you got an upcoming program. I believe it should be brought up right up front. I think you got something coming up for Green, matter of fact, at the community center. Is that right?
Well, yeah, we're going to have a program at the Afiba Center this coming Friday. That's tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is going to be a first in a series of discussions as we talk about the greening of the community and the greening of America. And we're going to have panelists from all over the spectrum, from all over the world, from all over the country to discuss this issue so that we can make an educated decision on the direction that we need to go in as a community, as a people, as a nation. Now, as we know, Brother Wisdom, this administration, the Obama administration, has made a lot of overtures towards trying to shift the direction of energy development into what they call green energy or clean energy. And they are apparently appropriating a lot of funds for this type of conversion or transformation, if you will. And one of the things that we want to do tomorrow at the Afiba Center is the first in a series of monthly discussions. It could be bi-monthly because there's so much to talk about. But right now we have it slated for a month. We're going to discuss issues as it pertains to what it's going to take for the African American community to benefit the most from this conversion or transformation from fossil fuels to a greener and cleaner energy base. So that's really what we're going to talk about today on this edition of Future Shock, as well as tomorrow, which we hope to have you as a participant via telephone, to talk about these issues tomorrow with our live in the community audience as well as on the net. So, Brother Wisdom, welcome back. Should I say?
Yes, brother. This is what we're talking about, and we're in a very serious, critical time. It is one of the greatest insights that I could say that the community can really be able to bear witness to is the wonderful insights that Inner Light Radio has provided and Black Talk Live Radio in regards to just what Future Shock offered, insights about things that were predicted to come, and we're going way back in the times of the Bush administration up until now. As we see now, we even hear our new President Obama, speaks about what you just described about the creating the smart grid, the creation of a new smart grid system, the creation of a new economic system that has not yet came into reality. And what I mean by that is that for the black leadership, and that we have identified. But first here, I'd like to say that the information you're about to hear here on Future Shock is information you're not going to hear on ABC or CBS or NBC, nor Fox News, but only here, the radio stations that has your voice in mind. And so we not only reserve the right to give our own self-critical analysis of the problems that we see that are extended to the black community, but here we provide solutions. And you're 100% correct. the new direction that the President Obama has outlined as the agenda for this country is an agenda that now it should become of a great concern, and it should be a movement growing now that since we have done our part in making predictions regarding oil prices. And matter of fact, today, as we speak, the oil prices are now over $71 a barrel. Now we have new other issues that are coming up on the scene with North Korea, and we heard that North Korea and Russia is coming together in regards to they're getting ready to again fire off some more missiles. But this issue about the oil prices and the gasoline prices that you see, the issues about the foreclosures, which was described in one article as one of the greatest American hate crimes, to where we had the existing laws that was on the books supposed to protect the black community, especially under the housing under HUD, that these laws were already on the books to protect us from this very existence of the predatory lending practices that have totally devastated not only 70% of the black and Hispanics, but others that were also caught into this quagmire. Mm-hmm. And so, what were the protections at? And so, that owes a little bit from the government to have some kind of point of reconciliation, but what grounds do we as black leadership lay the foundation for that reconciliation process to take place? And let's look at this green economy. Let's look at this as a process of saying that what we could do and how do we now, as we see the joblessness increases, and then you have some horrifying stories, and I'm hearing that about California with Governor Schwarzenegger, which is speaking about cutting in deep. I mean, it's like this is not a surgeon trying to cut for to try to save the patient. It's a surgeon to just to cut off an arm to save the whole body. If some of these financial cuts have to be made, I mean, just think about this. And how does the green economy and why isn't the black community, the black leadership need to pay attention to this? Because one, on top of all of this, all of the states are suffering behind the foreclosure mortgages, the dividends, what they call the derivative markets, and also, as we saw, the price gouging in regards to the oil prices. We see that even after President Obama has entered into the office, we begin to become concerned because what happened when he said that he was going to address the speculation, the speculative buying in relationship to the oil markets. We are seeing these gas prices coming up, and there are projections that these gasoline prices will come back up to $200 to $300 a barrel. And in some cases, some argue the point that they want the prices to be that high so that they could drive the people away from the fossil fuel vehicles to these new vehicles that are getting ready to come into the market.
Let me just say this. Let me just stop you right here, Brother Wisdom, because and shockingly, we have our first email that quickly. So you've already struck a nerve. I'm watching the numbers go up rapidly on this program. So apparently the listening audience did get our email announcements and they're logging on. Before I get to this first email, though, you said a couple of things, and I want you to just backtrack and define this for our audience. First of all, yes, we're watching online now the price of a barrel of crude continually to decline. Okay, it's above $71 a barrel. Why is it climbing up when it appears that the demand is not as high as it was even a year ago? And people are driving more energy efficient cars. So it would seem like there would be more of a supply than the demand, and therefore the price should stay down or even continue to decline. But now it's going up. So why is it going up?
And we had this discussion prior, before we started the show about, isn't that a coincidence, something to think about? We have more increased unemployment and also more increase in foreclosures of empty homes. And yet the prices are still going up. And here it is. It goes back to what we have talked about all the time. We're looking at a monopoly. And when you're talking about a monopoly, we're talking about an 18th century, 19th century fossil fuel technology that has, and that has never, has upgraded itself. That's including the electrical grid system itself. You have to connect when we speak about the energy industry, we have to connect the utility companies and the oil industries combined it, because you have to connect the two. For example, in Washington D.C., their whole electrical grid system operate off of 100% petroleum that generates the electricity. Now you heard about wind, wilderness correction. You heard about natural gas. They had to a lot of the power companies had to move away from coal, and so they moved and switched over to natural gas. And here's where the biggest thing is getting ready to happen. We're talking about cap and trade, but let me address your question. The question is that what it is that the technology, we are living up under monopoly. They have had for years enjoyed the American public in many ways when they came up with the the windfall profit tax, all these different things where you think about the federal, where the people out of the American public pocket have the oil industry has enjoyed tax subsidies and things like that into the billions of dollars. Now, here President Obama comes back and said, we want to take that money back and put it into a green economy that will be homegrown jobs and also help address the energy crisis, because here it is, we are still connected to an 18th century technology that's connected us to foreign governments. Well, here the issue is what we're talking about is in order for us to talk about free market. In order for us to talk about that, and when you hear them use the code word, let the free marketplace address the systemic problems that we see that exist in the society, then in order for us to address that issue, then we need to bring in true competition. Then what is the true competition? Look at GM and look at Chrysler for years, and you heard in these hearings that even the senators said that it was your fault because you knew that you saw the handwriting on the wall by looking at Honda and Toyota and Fiat and all the rest of them. But then the point came up was that, well, then, because of your poor management and marketing, you have not only detrimented yourself, but you detrimented also became a detriment to the U.S. economy. Now, from me and from my position, and none of you got to accept my position on this issue, but I'm going to make this comment and make it clear. It gets a little bit personal than just that. See, you see them in these hearings, and you saw the CEOs, GM, and Chrysler, and you saw these others, and they all talking about, well, they're not treating us fairly. They're talking about closing out 2,000 car dealerships. Well, my position is this. I really, be honest with you, I have no sympathy for them at all, and any compassion whatsoever. Because the question is that just 2 years ago there was a report that came out that showed that the majority of these automobile dealerships the majority of them were actually using predatory financing and predatory lending to the blacks who were buying these automobiles. Where were your compassion when you were charging these high interest rates on black folks just to purchase these vehicles? Where were your compassion at then? So then I'm saying then in reference, then bill our pain. So now here it is. You got 2,000 of them, and let me explain something. We're looking at some unusual things. Do you remember just recently that they claimed that they passed a bill about the credit card thing? About it was post, and it's strange how, as I've always said, that they always are good at they create a bill that seems like it has a moral good, but it really has an evil end. Well, then that's just like a politician say we need more policemen. But now, all of a sudden, we got over 70% of black men locked up in the prisons, or 75%, matter of fact, in the prisons. But then, based upon the population, that would be considered genocide. But then, yet here it is. You're looking at look at how they got us, and they create these 3 racist reporting bureaus that they have us to report to. And think about it. That if you look into it, look. I guarantee you that black folks are paying high interest on the cell phone bills. They're probably the first to be able to have to pay a down payment on most of the majority of all of this on the cell phone bills. I challenge them to prove me wrong. I challenge the automobile industry to prove me wrong. I challenge all of the utility companies to prove me wrong. When they have to, and then look at the late fees that they're getting just with the credit cards. And then they created this bill saying, well, this is supposed to protect. But then now all of a sudden they straight up gone crazy with the interest rates and everything else. And this is where usury comes to a point that, you have to question what is it that these people believe in.
Well, we know what they believe in, Brother Wisdom. They believe, first of all, in power and control. They believe in the almighty dollar. They believe in, trying to infringe upon the personal freedom and rights. We know what they believe in. I want to go back one more step because I got an email here, and I'm going to put this one in the text box because you got to read this as I read it to you because it's pretty raw. Do you have it in front of you?
I'm reading it right now. Go right ahead.
Okay, this comes from Jennifer. She's writing us from Oceanside, California. She says it's called Housing Crisis Hate Crime. You call the housing crisis a hate crime against blacks and minorities. Well, look, I'm white and I got, you see that word there?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, it's an expletive. Okay, it starts with an F. She got F'd too. I like this station and most of the programs. I consider myself very liberal and open to lots of points of view, but get it right, Wisdom.
I think that we did get it right, and I think that when you look at it, the reports show that 70%, as a matter of fact, this is not me speaking. This is what was presented in the hearing with the Senate and the Congress. And we do get it right, and I think that it is a racial situation when you think about it being targeted towards 70% of the blacks and Hispanics, or the majority of those who were tied into it. And let me explain. They were under the laws when you look up under HUD, and matter of fact, really, let me, if you really want to get straight about something, get something right, look at all of the states across this country right now. If it wasn't for the federal laws, and when you start thinking about right now, you got 22 states, and correct me, Jennifer, if I'm wrong, that you have 22 states in this union that's talking about separating from the federal government. Then, and black folks don't have no say in any of this. Then, am I right or wrong?
Well,
let me get my point even more clear. There exist upon the laws, under the federal government laws, to protect black folks from discrimination in housing. Then, where was the protection at?
Well, let's look at it. I'm going to take her email on face value. Okay, and then let's just break it down as best we can, because this is, I think, an interesting point. I don't agree with the language, but I kind of understand the outrage. But she says, you called the housing crisis a hate crime against blacks and minorities. She says, well, look, I'm white and I got screwed too. There are a lot of non-black people, non-Hispanic people, white people that bought into these option loans and are being put out of their homes just like everybody else. I mean, I see it out here in California. California has some real tremendous issues going on, Brother Wisdom, I'm sure you're very well aware of. And I'm looking at trailer parks right now that are going up in what we would call high-end communities, and these people cannot afford right now to pay the $7,000 and $8,000 a month mortgages that they were once able to pay. So now they're living in their motorhomes or trailer homes or mobile homes in some of these vacant areas in these same communities, but they cannot live in their home. Their homes they're already in foreclosure. They're already gone. Bank owns them. And by and large, I know where this area is that Jennifer's writing from, Oceanside. I can guarantee you that's a 97 to 98% Caucasian area. Okay. But that is also an area that has been devastated by some of these fires recently. There's a lot of folks that have already had to move because of the fires. So I think that where she's coming from is that she's watching this happen maybe in her area, but I'm just not sure. Do you see the broader picture or spectrum here, Jennifer, of where Brother Wisdom's coming from when you talk about entire cities, entire communities where there is a majority black population, where you have the majority of these people that were once homeowners are now looking for homes, looking for shelter.
They're wiped out. And
Baltimore, Detroit.
If you want to see something to make a brass monkey cry, Jennifer, and if you have, and I understand, I want you to understand that, see, there is a saving grace in what I am saying here. And I'm saying to you that, but for the black community at this point, we are not controllers of the financial institution. And as a matter of fact, I call it economic apartheid. I call it that there is, and this is the realities that I want, and I'm putting a challenge, and here's the point. there is certain economic apparatuses that do not exist within the black community, and you would assume that naturally that they would. But I'm saying to you that they do not. And so those same apparatuses that you have been, that are beneficiary to you or may be existing within your community does not exist within the black community whatsoever. And that's the issue that I'm talking about. And in 2009, they still do not exist. And so, and we can easily outline those things that exist in all these other ethnic groups in this community. And then and I've asked the question, and I really want to know, either are the people concerned about this issue, or are they just putting it to the side, or they just don't really give a damn?
Well, let's look at it from this standpoint. And Brother Wisdom, I need you to either turn the volume down on your mic channel a bit, or just
I'll back up.
Back it up a little bit. But let's face, from my vantage point, the reality is real simple. Groups are taking care of group interests. Now, when we start talking about, certain provisions that may or could have been put in place to protect the interests of homeowners or new first-time buyers, when all of this started to, get out of control, I would ask the question as well as, okay, yes, there's obvious criminal intent on the part of many lenders. But yet at the same time, when we start to talk about group concerns and group interests, what entity is in the African American community that could have, should have, and didn't protect the interests of the new first-time home buyers of their constituents?
That's correct. And that's the same way with the automobile loans as well. Listen, and then you can look into the telecommunications industry. Do you know that we are paying more all the way across the board, from insurance to everything else? And I challenge each and every one of those industries to prove me wrong.
Let's go on to the...
And then here's the other issue. If there was true regulators that was out there to protect the interests of the American public. And when we say the American public, that's inclusive of Jennifer and us and all. But what happened is, as long as it was predatory within the black community, they never considered it stemming over. And what was so unique about it was that they created what they call the derivative markets. And when they created these toxic assets and tied them to the world, this was what makes this depression more unique than any other in history of this country.
Now, you're calling it a depression. Is that what it is right now?
This is exactly what we're going through. Let me show you something right now that's happening locally. What you're going to see is, and we're already witnessing it now, can you imagine that somebody, as you drive around in the communities that I'm in, you're driving around and you could see listen to this. Banks are looking like automobile dealerships.
Now, I hadn't heard of this until you mentioned it to me yesterday off air, and I'm going to take it upon myself to go out today, look at some of the banks, look in the parking lots.
Automobiles on sale. You'll see people got their cars parked on the bank's lots, and they got them up for sale.
Now, these are obviously cars that have been repossessed. People can't make payments. The bank is trying to get any money that they can get, against the loan that they issued. So they're trying to make some money back.
And here it is. What Jennifer is saying, that she's got caught up in the situation. I would love to see her stay in her home. This is not a black and white issue. This is an issue about justice for all. And when any human being or a part of the human family, where you find injustice, where is your voice when we're supposed to come together? And that's what I'm talking about when we find injustice anywhere to be found on this planet. But as long as it was advantageous for those who benefited from the security markets, I'm talking about those who were talking about they were portfolio managers supposed to help people find a way, and they use these derivative markets and also set that up for the retirement plan. And then when it got wiped out, But they never connected how this whole process went down. As long as they thought that they could continue to make money. But this thing is worse because of the fact that when I say that we are in a depression, it's because what makes this different is that when it goes all the way back to the Standard Oil Trust Company. It goes all the way back to that. That's the same way. How did it goes down to, how did you get a new governor, matter of fact? It was all about energy. And then here it is that, and when you're looking at Enron and all the rest of these groups, and what happened is under the derivative markets, it tied into such a way that it tied the whole world into this, and this is a different type of depression than what we're talking about from the 1930s. And see, and this is where it becomes dangerous because for the black community, and what I have to be able to get understood among all the other ethnic groups in this country is that, one, the economic apparatuses that exist for them do not exist for us. And this is where the black leadership needs to understand that when we see social conditions change, we must learn to create new forms of economic positioning or new forms of economic leveraging. Because they are able to learn, they have processes in how to leverage a devalued dollar. Where we don't have those apparatuses or mechanisms in place that like they do. And if the whites can understand that and the Hispanics can understand, I'm talking about the Mexicans and who else was in this country, the people from India, the Arabs, who else is in this country, the Germans, the Italians, all the rest of these groups, they are enjoying certain apparatuses that still, for the black community, still do not exist. And even just recently, the black farmers, for example, just 2 days ago, just a few days ago, we just had a show with the black farmers with Dr. John Boyd and Lucas Lawrence over there with AFDCA, whatever it is, this union group for the black, for agriculture. It's saying that they have had years under the Department of Agriculture of discrimination, even up under the Clinton administration. And that they actually supposed to have received a $1.5 billion restitution or resolution or whatever you want to call it, reconciliation or reparation for the practices that was going out on this issue. Let me give you an example. If we could to strengthen, and if we're going to talk about American citizenship, then let's talk about it. And then we need to be very cautious about what are we really asking for, even when we say civil rights versus human rights. There is no one even talking about, and I would like to hear what Jennifer's feelings is when we as black folks don't even have a say about 22 states that wants to separate from the union. Where are we at? I mean, shouldn't we as black folks in these states have a right to have a concern that you're talking about creating something called the Congress of Continental something conference or whatever, that if 32 states want to, they could separate or it takes a vote of 32 states or 36 states to separate from the federal government? And then think about this. Then now let's talk about the states. These states have not changed their laws that go back from Jim Crowism era. Have you seen them abolish any of these existing laws in any of these states? And shouldn't black folks be concerned? And why is this not in the black media? And why is it not being spoken about? It's spoken about. I heard this from what's her name? Rachel Maddow's show. Now, she stated that 22 states were separating from the union. This came around during the time when you had the Texas Tea Party, the enactment of the Boston Tea Party. And then turn around, you had the governor from Texas jump up. And then do you know that when you study this thing, that Texas never did secede to the federal government or to the union at the time during the Civil War? Do you know that there is states that did that they after the Civil War, that there are certain amendments that they did with their states and you have to be concerned that we need to study for black folks in all of these states, what rights do you have? There's a thing called state sovereignty and federal laws. Well, where were the federal laws when, as I said again, when it came down to the foreclosures and when we came down to these adjustable rate mortgages? Where was the laws that were supposed to be designed to protect us? And if you did separate, what would that mean? Would the federal laws be non and void? Then would we be back like it was? And if you go back to the case of Dred Scott in Missouri, he was a freed man, but they put him back into slavery. These are the type of issues, Jennifer, that we need more proper education. So it go beyond emotions. It will go to the point of true that we will all think as one and desire for one another true justice and equality for all people in this country.
Okay, let's move forward because we've got about a little bit less than 30 minutes in the program before we have to go to our next program. And there's a few issues I know we want to make sure that we address. And one of them is the global energy crisis and the climate change in this country. That appears that this is going to be spurring on what they would call the greening of America, the transformation of the energy sector from fossil fuel to what? To solar, fuel cell, hydrogen. Where do we stand on these issues, Brother Wisdom?
This is very critical for right now in the time of this depression that we as black folks is under. That some white folks might think they're under recession, but we are in a depression when it comes to black folks. So the issue is that we need to understand that we need leadership to look at new forms of economic policy positioning that would deal with us, creating us and putting us in position of a new form of economic positioning or economic leveraging within a new paradigm that comes with this green theology. So this means that in order for us to talk about an economic system, we have to look at the applications of the technology in real time. So the issue, to answer your question directly, is that here's the biggest number one element that's going to get us all. It doesn't matter who we are in this country. It's called cap and trade. And that's the one that is going to really shock you. It wasn't enough to, hear this. We had tried for years under Future Shock, and we outlined what was the outcome, what the future is going to be. Now we're getting ready to enter into the real deal, and that is when you start, look up under the Waxman bill. If you type it in about cap and trade, and just recently, Waxman feels that bill is going to pass, but yet you got the neocon conservative groups fighting against it as hard as they can, and not only just them, but you also have other forces in the industry that is working to move to try to do their best. This is like a revised vision of the clean energy bill going back from years ago, but there was a period of time that was stifled in regards to 10 years, and if you remember, President Bush did not sign on to the national agreement in regards to that agreement that they had going on at one time. Well, now under this bill, on the cap and trade, I'm gonna just give you a report that the Heritage Foundation mentioned. They said that if cap and trade goes into play, the average household could be looking on the utility bills alone at $7,000 a year.
The average home.
The average home, the utility bills could be up to $7,000 a year. And really, I don't see that's being too much of a shock. It's almost there now.
I was going to say, I feel it. Right. And I mean, I know we had some abnormal energy use here because of the radio station, but nevertheless, I see that could just be so devastating to so many people right now. I mean, considering the overall economic climate that we find ourselves in, we find ourselves now in a position where we have more and more fuel costs, more and more food costs. We haven't even put that one on the agenda yet, Brother Wisdom. It's the food costs. And then you're going to turn around and then tack on a higher and higher cost for energy. I still am kind of puzzled. And again, I'm going to look at this from the perspective of a citizen of California, a state that by many reports only has 48 days left before this state is in a total depression, outright depression of the worst kind in this country. No money. The state government will have no money in 48 days. I think I told you yesterday, Brother Wisdom, on the phone, is that for summer school, there is no summer school in the state of California. And it was just confirmed to me yesterday by some college students that the state community colleges, they have no summer school, middle school, high school, elementary, no summer school this summer because there is no money for it. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Brother, what you're getting ready to see in California is going to be the litmus test of everything that you saw in a horror movie of the Depression of the 1930s in films and movies. It's going to make it look like child's play.
And as they say, so goes California, so goes the nation.
And do you know that now think about what we were talking about on where you already have 22 states. And it was very interesting because I had brother Dr. John Cash's son, who was the first his father was the first black man to run as governor against George Wallace in the state of Alabama. And the thing is that it was very interesting because we went into the depths of breaking that thing down by state by state by state. Because believe it or not, you're going to have to think about all these things. And to hear that a Justice Hastings, who is the congressman, I believe, came out with a bill in support of creating a concentration camp for people who can't be able to survive.
Brother Wisdom, can we talk a little bit about the new policy decisions in regards to cap and trade by Waxman and what that's going to mean to the economy?
Yes, I think that is believe it or not, I know that how much time do we have left now is about.
Well, we've gotten to the top of the hour. Top of the hour. My time will be 12 noon. That'll be 2 o'clock your time.
Do you have that material up front right now that you can look at that we can, there's a specific link?
Give us an overview and I'll pull it up.
Okay, great. What we're looking at is, in essence, is that, in closing, I'd like to be able to spend a quick solution, and I want people to get a pen and pencil because I'm definitely when I come up with a solution, it's going to cut through the chase, to the areas of which I have identified within the market to how to survive within the depression and what we can do as a people. In regards to all the lots and the vacant lots and everything else, and including the existing building designs, those that are foreclosed. I would like to see how I got a strategy that can immediately create an economic base within the black community. But now to get to your question, the cap and trade is where you're looking at, and I'll put it in general terms. It gets more complex than that, but first thing is that if you remember, as President Obama came into office, before he was coming into office, his campaigning, you start seeing ads come out by the coal industry about, well, we're about clean coal technology. Well, as I've been saying all the time, they're talking about clean coal technology, but it's not a proven technology. They're talking about sequestration of the plumes of smoke, and what they're talking about doing is capturing that and then putting it into a container and burying it underneath the ground. Well, first thing, the coal industry is saying, well, if you make this move here, you're wiping out 60,000 jobs here, and but what is happening is that you have to understand that these are two competing forces. The two technologies bring about a different paradigm within themselves. The fossil fuel technology is a type of concept where you have one centralized energy grid system that feeds the millions of people, and if that one system becomes jeopardized, then the millions of people all become affected at one time. And so what President Obama is proposing is a smart grid system that will complement the existing 18th century grid system to using a decentralized electrical grid system where you have independent pockets like your home or your mosque, your church, your hospital, your clinic, your school, your grocery store, your bank still could operate because it is self-creating. In essence, it is self-sustaining, creating its own delivery electrical system or source of power, so they can sustain itself and set it like that. That means that in front of a crisis, then the whole entire society is not vulnerable. And this is a warring and part of this is the failure of the educational system, which also needed to be reformed because it was an educational system that had adopted and came to birth from out of a 18th century fossil fuel technological society that shall no longer exist. And in some cases, if you look at it in terms of economic terms or recession or economic terms, that my understanding is that the depression or recession is really a weeding out process of those industries or companies and businesses that would not be allowed to enter into the 21st century or let alone the 22nd century. And it's no more different from when you're looking at the horseshoe. This was a craft that the blacksmith had been around for thousands of years. Then all of a sudden up came the Model T Ford. Well, this is the same way with black leadership. If you still thinking that we got to still be trapped under the leadership of those who thinking in the 1960s and 70s and 80s and 90s approach and thinking that this is what's going to solve the problem, when we are dealing with technology that's moving at the speed of thought, and then at the same time we're looking at dealing with globalization and outsourcing, when we need to have the proper economic apparatus in order for us to be not only be able to combat it, but to even to compete within it, within this new economic paradigm. And this is where all these other ethnic groups have these economic systems and apparatuses in place and has been there all the time. But it was the failure of the educational system that prepared us on a financial level to understand about finances and economics and science and technologies, to be able to understand how this all comes together and how it works, for not only to address the present situation in which we live, the past and present, but the future of what we're going to be confronted with. And that's where climate change becomes a part of this. So cap and trade is set up in a way that they're saying, if you're going to pollute, you got to pay. So for every amount that they got it by so many million vessel bars, I forgot how they use it, per pound or per so many millions of something, of pressure, what goes to that's being released, carbon emissions being released into the atmosphere, you got to pay for that. And believe it or not, and I'm not trying to get funny, but I've heard somebody made a comment about they were talking about cows, that they got that they're going to be charging farmers because of the cows, how much gas and methane gas the cows are producing in the atmosphere.
Brother Williams, I've got a story that just came in. Someone just emailed me this link, and I'm going to read this to you in brief and get your response to it, because this goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about this morning. The new jobless claims dropped to 601,000. Now let's get this right. The new jobless claims dropped to 601,000, even though retail sales, at least according to the report, continue to rise. The newly laid off Americans filing jobless claims fell more than expected last week, and retail sales grew in May for the first time in 3 months. But a rise in the number of people continuing to receive jobless aid signaled that an economy recovery is still far off. The Labor Department said today that initial claims for unemployment benefits fell last week by 24,000 to a seasonally adjusted 601,000. That's below analyst estimates of 615,000. Still, the number of people claiming benefits for more than a week rose by 59,000 to more than 6.8 million, the highest on records dating to 1967. Now, I want to put this into another perspective, maybe a little bit broader perspective, so that we can understand that, this sounds, if you listen to it on face value, it sounds like it could be a little rosy, but it's really not. It's nice camouflage language that, these spin doctors like to use to make you believe that things aren't as bad as they really are, because it's really worse than this. Let's just go back to at least July of 2008, where there have been at least 500,000 people laid off every month, and from November 2008 until now, it has been 600,000 plus every month. And at the pace that we're going, Brother Wisdom, could you see easily by the end of the year somewhere between 15 and 20 million people out of work?
They had projected 30 million, and that really the numbers were even from 30 to 60 million people. And here's the thing, you're looking at what's happening is what's so sad about it, and that's why I'm getting back to this point. I thought that when President Obama came in that he was going to stop the speculative buying. When you got gasoline prices at the pumps going back up to $75 a barrel, it's $75 a gallon, it's automatically, the oil industry is automatically negating any of the economic stimuluses that they're producing. And this is what I'm saying. When you hear Rush Limbaugh jumps up and the Rush Limbaughs of the world open up their mouths and talk about that they're against any success that could come for President Obama on their economic plan, then this is where I'm beginning to wonder, what is your hidden agenda?
Well, let's be real. Rush Limbaugh is selling what I call racial wolf tickets. That's all that he's doing. Pure and simple. You know, even if he didn't like...
I agree, and but you have to understand he has an audience of 15 million people.
Right, and there's a lot of people that, you know, because they have their own fears and concerns, these are the people that you're talking about at the beginning of the program that are ready to, quote-unquote, succeed from the broader American society.
That's correct. And the danger of it is this, is that, you know, the question comes in is that when you look at economics, and if you go back into the history of just looking at, you know, when people start losing their jobs, and you've made this comment years ago. See, as long as they got their jobs, and as long as everything going rosy and everything else, they'll tolerate you. But let them lose their homes. Let them lose everything else. Then it becomes a total different issue. And what I'm saying, that this don't have to come to this point. I'm saying that there is the solution. And this is why when we talk about the green economy, and we talk about cap and trade means it's going to drive the people over to this new technology. Now, the problem is that we have a whole host of people who are already aware, and they're moving. There is movements now. People are moving in that direction. We have new real estate and commercial developers are already got projects on the table, but will it be in time? And then the question is that I have a great issue, I'm very concerned for the black leadership, is that, and so-called, and for the black, our people, is because they keep talking about training. And I hear this term about, well, we need to get the green, which is all fine and good. We got to train to get the green collar jobs. Now look, I've been talking about this for 7-8 years. You and I have been going back 3-4 years. So you see what I'm saying? Trying to get people to prepare in front of this issue, and what the reports are coming back across this country is that black folks did not pay attention. Now they're getting ready to be forced to pay attention. And here's the issue that's scary about all of this, is that now, here it is, we're talking about the jobs are beginning to develop, and we're looking at the new developments and the new financing that's getting ready to come into place, but we're talking about constantly training. I'm like this, training is good, but, I mean, you're leaving our people back into the situation they were in the 1960s and 70s and 80s. We had a whole lot of black folks who was out there trained. I mean, but damn, I mean, you can, you know, it's just like, is the society is treating us like you, when you look at a dog, you could tell a dog to, train a dog to sit, train a dog to stand, train a dog to lie down or roll over and play dead. You know, you can train a dog to do that, but, you know, I think that what we're looking at is that we need to start looking at creating businesses. And what I'm getting back to the point is that if you're going to talk about training, then the point is that we had a lot of people that were trained, but because we did not own the companies to hire our own people. And it's the same with whatever President Obama is talking about. That money that they're talking about going down, you better believe, and especially you know how politics run and how it crossed lines and everything else, that you got to look at how that money is coming down, that we're saying that there's movement saying, look, black folks, you're going to have to fight for some of that government money. Some of that money, but that's the only where the jobs is at. That's the only where the economy is going to be. When you're talking about federal government putting money out there to create jobs. You look at the highways and the roads that you see going up and down these streets. How many of us do you see sitting out there holding, and if you do see us out there, they're only holding a sign. That's a sign of the time if it's just only one black man holding it. And I'm saying that when we stop and we think about this issue, and I'm saying that when you look at this issue and look at it very clearly what I'm saying, that you are talking about we need to create more businesses. We need to create more jobs. And then I even put the challenge out there for all of us to look at what, I mean, if we're going to talk about opening up the free marketplace, then look, I'm saying that we need to also own our own solar manufacturing plants. I mean, own a solar manufacturing plant. If we're going to be in the game, let's get into the game all the way. But it's sad because and I realized that the apparatuses, the conversations, there was a point I remember when I was coming up in the 60s and 70s, black folks actually what you call intellectualized. I want you to understand what I'm saying. Back in those days, black folks actually intellectualized. But now we got these new groups out here, and they never was around the black liberation movement. They wouldn't, as a matter of fact, I question what their positions are. That's the same way with all of these different groups. But what has they got to do with feeding our people? What has it got to do with the basics? And these are the same ones that they're going to end up being homeless and outdoors based upon their philosophy, because instead of coming together with people like me and Brother Jamal to make something happen, I mean, with these type of things and ideas, we should be coming together to create a whole new paradigm. We're talking about transforming our communities where every home is self-sustaining. It don't have to pay another damn bill, and that's part of a psychological dependency. You don't want to break away from that slave master in a way, or that utility company, when you could be creating your own electrical power. Then you got a whole list, and here's the thing. President Obama got billions of dollars over here as an incentive to get you to come off this grid. But how many of you willing to make that move? You got it already, the best laws in the country in California. You got the best laws in a lot of other states across this country, and you still won't make that move. But guess what you will do? I heard of a situation where what you will do, you'll go in there and you will go buy a car. You will go and take your money. If just say overnight, the first thing that black folks going to do is that if just say you won the lotto, and you know I don't play the lotto, but let's suppose that you won the lotto and you just only won $150,000. I promise you, the first thing that black folks going to do, and let's say you still got a job. That's just like the lotto too.
That's right.
I mean, and you still be lucky to still make $50,000 a year, or $70,000 a year, or $100. If two of you working, you still making $150,000 a year, or $300,000 a year. Who knows? You're lucky. You're playing the lotto too with your job, based upon the atmosphere and the economic conditions that we see exist, and that is present danger in your future right now. But you don't have sense enough. But you ready to go get that new car. That's the paradigm right there. We are so thinking, we're so misplaced. We'll take that money and we misplace priority. We have misguided priorities and when you can think about, here it is, taking that $25,000, you find it hard to find $25,000 to put on a solar on your home. You find it hard to find that money, or to even come together and even create a force that would demand of these banking institutions and credit unions and credit departments to open up that avenue to be able to, so that you could put solar on your homes. Mm-hmm. But it's easy in your mindset to go ahead and say, I'm going to just buy me a new car.
Well, let's look at it from this standpoint. Next email. This comes from Milt Jackson from East Philly. He titles this Bailout Money. And we've only got about 4 minutes left, unfortunately, Brother Wisdom.
Yes,
GM and Chrysler are about to go belly up, and they both got bailout money. That means to me that we, the people, lost more money that we didn't have. Why is Obama giving these corporations all this money when he could have given every American $100,000 and we would have all paid our debts to the corporations that are going bankrupt? I'm confused. Mike from East Philly.
You know, Mike, this is the thing about economic systems that need to evolve within themselves. President Obama is wrapped around people, and probably he's a part of it. We don't know. But based upon certain actions, we have to be concerned, because he's already saying that he created an economic stimulus, and yet he talks about having regulators to monitor situations with these banks and everything else. But how much of it is getting into the hands of just black folks, period? But getting back to your point, they gave billions of dollars to the automobile industry. And this is why I hold no sympathy for them. I don't hold no sympathy for none of them. And you shouldn't either, because they have used and manipulated the American public, and yet President Obama could have easily put that money into the pockets. And let me ask you something. Think about this. I look at the banking institutions and how they are also treating us too there at these banks, and including the 3 reporting racist credit bureaus. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I thought about it. I said, wait a minute. All these ethnic groups are here, and they are enjoying first currency exchange. That's the number one thing they're dealing with right now. That's an apparatus, and I want everybody in this country to prove me wrong, that they're not enjoying a difference in regards to how they use a devalued dollar through the currency exchange. Every ethnic group in this country is doing it.
Brother Wisdom, we got 2 minutes left. I got to get some solutions in here. Some solutions.
Okay, well, quick solutions, real quick. Give me a call. My number is 1-618-447-5004. Let's talk about it. If you are an investor, if you own land, if you are a farmer, if you want to change and convert and build your own housing association, the churches, the mosques, start doing your own in-house mortgages. Why do you leave your people out to some foreigners or to other foreign financial institutions that don't respect you? Create your own and put solar on these buildings. Take those abandoned homes, put back equity on those properties by putting solar on top of it, and do your own in-house mortgages. That's how we can revise, because you're looking at jobs for the contractor. You're looking at also putting money back into the people's pocket so they can afford to pay the mortgages and lower those interest rates. And the second thing, the best solution, if these white bankers and these people here don't want to give us the money, let's go to China, let's go to Africa, let's go somewhere around the world that will loan us the money if we got a good business plan. But you can go to my site at www.solarwindpower.biz. Again, that's solarwindpower.biz. My number is 1-618-447-5004. Again, it's 1-618-447-5004, or email me at solarenergyconsultant@yahoo.com.
Thank you, Brother Wisdom. And for those of you in the listening audience, we will be at the AFIBA Center tomorrow in Los Angeles, 5730 Crenshaw Boulevard, for our first in a series of discussion about the greening of America, the greening of the community. There'll be a whole host of people on the panel list. It's an open mic forum to discuss this issue. This is the first in the series, and we want you to be there. For more information, you can call 310-928-7733. Up your mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. One God, one aim, one destiny. Stay tuned. We have more programming about greening of America coming up next.
Well, the time of evil is just about to close, and the forces of righteousness shall shortly recompose. You gotta get down, 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 and get it deep. There's no